All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at the entire skeleton. So looking at the axial skeleton from the front. So starting in the center here, looking at the sternum. So this whole bone is referred as the sternum. There's three main parts of it. So up here at the top, kind of looks like the knot of a tie. This is called the manubrium. So you have the manubrium. On the manubrium, you're going to have this little hook here right in the center, and that is called the jugular notch. So right in the center of the manubrium is the jugular notch. And then as we move down, this long portion of the sternum is called the body. So the body of the sternum. And then this pointy part here is referred to as the xiphoid process. Xiphoid means sword-like. I thought it looked kind of like the tip of a sword. So those are the different parts of the sternum. Then looking at the ribs. So for the ribs, you'll need to know there's three different types. You have true, false, and floating ribs. So ribs 1 through 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, are all considered true ribs on either side. That term true means they have a direct connection to the sternum. So they're directly connected through this cartilage here. Ribs 8, 9, and 10, so we have 8, 9, and 10 are not directly connected to the sternum. The cartilage is going to merge with some other pieces of cartilage. So these three are referred to as the false ribs. So 8, 9, and 10 are called false ribs. And then these two in the back, 11 and 12, are referred to as the floating ribs. They don't come all the way forward. They look like they're kind of floating in the back there. Up at the top, towards the skeleton, or towards the skull, there's this bone here, kind of floating somewhat in between the cervical vertebrae. That bone is referred to as the hyoid bone. Kind of looks like these vampire teeth here. So this is an anchoring point for muscles of your chin and in your sternum to be able to attach. So that is your hyoid bone. So now I'm going to turn this around so we can look at some of the aspects of the vertebrae and the vertebral column. So the first 7 vertebrae are referred to as cervical vertebrae. So in the neck, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll talk about the special name for C1 is the atlas. C2 is called the axis. So we have 7 cervical vertebrae, and then we have 12 thoracic vertebrae. So T1 through T12. These are all going to connect to the ribs on the back. So that we have the thoracic vertebrae. And then the lower 5, we have the lumbar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the lower vertebrae in the lumbar region. Okay, all of these parts I've been touching here are the spinous process of the vertebrae. And then on the outside, we have the transverse process. We have 2 transverse processes and then 1 spinous process, all up through the vertebrae. As we keep going down, large few sets of vertebrae, this bone is called the sacrum. So in the middle of the sacrum, we have these referred to as the median sacral crest. And we also have some holes called the sacral foramen. And then finally, the last set of vertebrae at the very end, like the tailbone, is the coccyx. So those set of bones are all referred to as the coccyx. I'll also mention here on the vertebrae, between the bodies of the vertebrae are going to be these holes. These are referred to as the intervertebral foramen. So you're going to have nerves that are coming off your spinal cord exiting through the intervertebral foramen. Between the bodies of the vertebrae, you have this piece of cartilage. Those are called the intervertebral discs. So those are between the bodies, going all the way up to the vertebral column.